record. So blockchain. Blockchain, we have a huge issue, and this is that we have so many different blockchain systems out there. All those blockchain systems are fighting for being the one and only blockchain system in regards to building applications on it. So we can say that Bitcoin is Bitcoin, and there's, well, we should say there's no discussion around it. But then the last years we had so many forks of the Bitcoin blockchain, and other people pretending that their new forked Bitcoin blockchain, their iteration of it, is the real Bitcoin. So we can say that with every blockchain system you find on the market, there is a quite toxic community. They are fighting about the positive aspects of their blockchain system, what they can offer, why this is not hackable, what to say. So although blockchain is there for so many years, the community and being part of the community, if you submit a paper and you used Ardor like we did, and then the reviewer is a fanboy of Ethereum, and then you cannot maybe expect the best review. This is what I mean with a toxic community. But for now, let's assume that we are in 5 to 10 years from now, that there are kind of multi-chain solutions available. So all the blockchains finally started to work together and accept kind of a basic data set working together. And we can say that blockchains are here to gain trust between the partners, to be transparent in regards to that you can have a look into the hash of the transaction itself. But if there is private data involved, the privacy is being kept in the sense of that the private data is encrypted, and only with your private or with the shared key you can decrypt it, and you can keep the ownership of the data, and smart contracts will do the hard work, and especially in regards to the connection between the different partners or automatization processes in general. And then, of course, a lot of people are confused with wording. So we have the DLT, keyword, distributed ledger technologies, and blockchain. And there are a lot of different distributed ledger technologies, which all started with Napster in the very early days. But for blockchain is a part of DLT technologies, but there are at least two aspects you have to consider. One aspect is the aspect that why we call blockchain a blockchain. This is because transactions are grouped into blocks, and depending on the system, this could be made in a different way. So for example, you can say that if 10 minutes of transactions, so the blockchain system waits for like 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then a new block is generated, and all the data that is in one block receives a hash, which can be salted, of course, so that it is even more unique. And then all these blocks on the blockchain are then cryptographically connected with each other. So you can say that this is the specific part what makes blockchain special as a part of distributed ledger technologies. You're all experts in the field of IT, so I really don't have to explain to you what a hash function is. But just in one sentence, a hash function is an image that maps a larger input quantity to a smaller target quantity. So you write a sentence, or you have some data, and then out of the data, you have a hash function. And if you want to make the data more unique, you can add the timestamp, you can add the IP address of the computer generating the data, or you can use other random data, which is then called to salt the hash function, to make it appear absolutely unique. A very easy example on how those blocks are interconnected with each other, like you have the Genesis block, which has here like a specific random number for the salting. There's the data including the previous hash here in the Genesis block is obviously 0 or non-existing, but the Genesis block generates a hash. And then this hash is interlinked with the second block with again a random number with the data included in the second block. And the second block starts with the hash from the first block and obviously generates its own hash, which is then interlinked with the third block, and so on and so forth. And to look into the different blockchain systems, you can of course use websites that help you to look into it, where you can see the current transactions. You can click into previous transactions. You see the hash rate, the difficulty, for example, with Bitcoin mining at the moment. So how many different computer systems are currently trying to mine the next block. And of course, the higher the hash rate, the more secure the network. But if you use such block explorers, of course, the block explorer itself can give you fraudulent data. So if you really want to be sure that you look into the right data of the blockchain, you always have to run your own node, meaning that you run a full copy of the blockchain itself on your very own system. And there is this website, blockchain.mit.edu, where you can do all the simple tasks. So you learn a little bit more about the very, very basics of blockchain. So these blockchain systems usually can be run in three different ways. The public blockchain, this is what the blockchain enthusiasts usually call a real decentralized blockchain system. So all the data on the blockchain is available. There's nothing hidden in private networks, or there's no data that you as a person cannot actually look into it. So everything is stored on the public chain. Then there are consortium blockchains, and this is a lot the direction we go at the moment. For example, with Ethereum Hyperledger or Hyperledger Fabric. So basically, it would be like if Danube University, MIT, and Texas A&M like to run a database using blockchain as technology in the background, so that we as three universities have like the same copy of the database and maybe use the system to start to trust each other more or whatever. And then it would be a consortium-based blockchain. This is something especially banks and insurance companies are working at the moment, because at the moment they are using FTP servers for the communication of the data. And they think if they use the technology of blockchain and that they generate like blocks every 5 or 10 minutes, and then if there is a hash on the block and then you cannot manipulate the past, this would help them a lot to stop fraudulent behavior between the banks. And this would help them that they no longer need to pay for services that are doing this, the handling of the transaction between the banks, the interbank transactions. And this would save them money at the end of the day. And this would make, of course, transactions between bank accounts much, much faster and more reliable in the near future. And then there are private blockchains. This is basically, so if with a consortium blockchain, you can say it's different entities involved, and with a private blockchain, it would be maybe the blockchain that is only run, only Danube University as one entity is running a private blockchain between the departments, for example. So this is something that you would usually say it's maybe not necessary to do if you trust the people involved, if you trust the IT department of your entity. However, it might make sense if you think about maybe MIT or maybe Starbucks as one single company, and even to enable trust within the company or to enable transactions, for example, vouchers that you accept in Austria and in the US, one company could run a private blockchain for that. Those blockchains can be permission or permissionless, meaning that every node acting as a node in the blockchain has full access to conduct transactions and to look into them, or with permission, so only certain nodes can look into specific data. Now think about voting. Soon you have the voting in the US. A permission blockchain could mean that that both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, run their nodes, and you can see in every capital city, an officer is allowed to actually look into the data and look into the processes of the transaction, but everyone else can just have a look and see the hashes, for example, of the transactions. So something like that, that you can set up a system for voting, so for other processes where you have some key players that act as the administrators, and all the rest can look into the data depending on their status. So read only, or have, you know what I mean. And but then of course private blockchains and public blockchains can go hand in hand, and this is maybe something that we really see a lot in the upcoming months and years. So for example, you can keep the private data, your users, on a private blockchain. So the name, where the person lives, etc., etc. But every time this private data is involved and attached to a transaction of some sort, the hash of the person is attached to the transaction. So in this interaction between the private data and the generated hash, which is available on the public blockchain, you as the operator of the system holding the private data can always say that, listen guys, we did not fraud the data, we did not manipulate the data, the hash equals the one that we transmitted to the public blockchain. And then there's another huge issue that we are facing at the moment, and this is about how we actually call all these cryptographic assets that are on blockchain. And there is no common wording. Some call them cryptocurrencies for everything, others call them blockchain-based assets. And in one of the papers, I tried to distinguish between the different assets, but just for now and for the coming hour, talking about this and hopefully discussing also about this in a bit. Most of the assets that we generate in our projects, I would call them non-tradable utility tokens. Why? Because it's a token that has a particular utility, for example, securing a virtual asset for the game, or storing the grade on blockchain for a test. And then we grade you, and then your grade and the private data is stored on blockchain. But what we want is, we do not want that this data can be transmitted from one to another blockchain address without the original wallet, the original operator knowing about it. So we block that. We can do that with a so-called approval model. We do not want this asset to be traded on an asset exchange, because if we store a grade on blockchain, we don't want you to sell this grade to another person, so he or she can use it and pretend that they passed an exam at the university. But then, of course, we have tradable utility tokens. So this could be a specific purpose, for example, a ticket for a concert, and we allow you to trade this ticket for a concert, but not maybe on a free market, but on a specific trading platform. And you always have to reveal your identity for that. And we, as the issuer of the original concert ticket, actually receive like 5 or 10% of the trade, or you have to pay an extra fee besides the gas that you have to pay to the network for the transaction. So this could be an example for a tradable utility token. Then we have cryptocurrencies, so basically tokens that should be used for kind of a store of value or payment, like Bitcoin, Litecoin. And then we have this tradable network maintenance utility tokens. I know it's a hard work, but this would be, for example, Ethereum or Ardor. So we have this token that could be on the one hand a cryptocurrency, so you could use it for a payment. But this is also the token that you use to pay the fee to the network for your utility tokens. And it doesn't matter if it's like a tradable or non-tradable utility tokens, because for generating the tokens, for sending the token to another address, you need to pay those people that keep the network alive, because that is the reason why they are keeping the network alive. And they're a different kind of mining algorithms we can maybe discuss in a minute, but it really doesn't matter for now. And if those tokens have a value, so if they are actually traded on a cryptocurrency exchange, you can go, for example, on the website CoinMarketCap. They try to get all the data together from all the cryptocurrency exchanges to give you an idea how much your token is worth at the moment. And you can click on the token, you can get further information, you can click into the different exchanges this token is traded. This is a company based in New York. They are operating this website, and they have millions of views per minute, and they are making good money because of selling AdWords or other particular services for companies that need to get deeper insights into the data related to the trading of crypto assets. So here you have quite an overview of networks that exist, but new networks are being created as we speak. Some of them are hyped, some of them are working for a year, and then they maybe take them offline again because no one is no longer operating the nodes. So what you have to look into it is the number of nodes actually in the network. This is a really important, and as I said, the hash rate in the network, those are really important key figures you have to look at. So any questions before we continue with smart contracts? Or is it more or less clear what I'm talking about for the moment?
I think it's pretty clear.
Okay. Please interrupt me if there's anything you like to know more. So smart contracts or lightweight smart contracts, again, we do not have the wording everyone is using, but smart contracts are basically a piece of program code that is executed on the nodes, on the blockchain, on the nodes run by people and companies running the nodes, and they should lead to, they have a particular purpose. For example, we will talk about examples in a bit, but you want to push automatization, you want that things are running smoothly between different parties without real paperwork, and that is why you program a smart contract. And then we have lightweight smart contracts. This is how the people from NXT and Ardora, for example, calling it. And they say, listen, we just have a particular framework in which you can develop the smart contracts. You're not free to do anything you like. But if you only use the possible choices within the framework that we give you, the chance that the code you produce offers a possibility that the hacker is using it in a way it should not be used, or funds are being stolen, whatever. Something that happens a lot with smart contracts. So there's a study from a university in Canada showing that there are thousands of malfunctional smart contracts around at the moment. And this is, of course, a huge issue. And if you read in the news that a blockchain was unsafe and funds have been stolen, it's not usually the blockchain itself that is unsafe. It's usually a malicious smart contract. So smart contracts would be like playing around with clay. You can do wonderful things if the programmers behind are really, really great in what they're doing, and if they put the smart contract itself on GitHub, and if you have decent reviewers, and you test it on testnet for a long period of time, and you have several iterations before you finally deploy it on mainnet. Because if you deploy it too early, as said before, the smart contract could be easily hacked maybe, or funds are blocked. And then we have the lightweight smart contract with the best metaphor would be Lego. And of course you can mess it up, but then maybe the smart contract itself, if it's messed up, is not being accepted by the nodes, and then it will not even run on the public blockchain. Let's start with some examples to warm up a little bit, and then we will talk about education and we talk about games in more detail. So when do we need smart contracts or blockchain itself is when you have more people, persons, entities involved, where you usually would need a middleman. As we have said in the case before with the banks, if you do a bank transfer from Austria to Brazil and then from Brazil to the US, the more complicated this transfer is. So if it's like from Unicredit in Italy, from Unicredit Italy to Bank Austria, which is Unicredit in Austria, you might not even need this middleman because it's just different kind of companies that at the end belong to one particular huge bank, and they will have their own systems in place already. But if you work with banks in different countries, on different continents, with countries that may be not seen as trustworthy countries, like maybe some countries in South America, then you will need intermediate banks that have a look into the data, and the process maybe takes a week, and it's very expensive to send funds. So that is why maybe those banks could, if the managers of the banks agree on a particular smart contract between the banks that has been reviewed by trustful IT professionals assigned from both sides, for example, and everyone agrees on that this smart contract could do the job, you would no longer need the middleman in between. And the more parties are involved, the more it makes actually sense, of course, to use such smart contracts. To give you an example from the near future, maybe in 5 to 10 years from now, which I think is one of the best examples to have a general understanding why we need smart contracts. You have a self-driving car, or you have at least a car with a self-parking function, as already some cars have at the moment. And you have to pay parking fees. So in I think in like 21 districts in Vienna, you have to pay parking fees at the moment. And basically, you have a wallet, and with your digital identity, you allow the wallet of your car to automatically pay the parking fees for each minute your car parks in a parking space. So you would click the button that your car parks here, and then you have this like the smart devices that interconnect with your car and with your wallet. And the first and easiest smart contract would be for every minute your car parks here, you pay 10 cents or 5 cents, whatever. But then there could be further terms and regulations that you agreed on. So for example, if your wallet is not funded properly and you have a cryptocurrency wallet there, then the smart contract could be, okay, if the wallet is not funded with cryptocurrency, then we allow you to actually have access to your regular bank account. And another addition to this could be, okay, if you don't have cryptocurrencies in your bank account, and if the bank says, the AI of the bank says that your bank account is not funded to pay the fee, then we can block your car's engine. And if you cannot unlock it, and if you cannot pay the fees in 150 days, depending on the brand of your car, the owner of the parking space is the new owner of your car. So as you see, such a smart contract could start with a very, very easy use case, paying the fees, but it could turn into something that you give someone access to access all of the funds that you can provide. And if you cannot provide those funds, maybe even the car itself, after a certain period of time, changes ownership, or at least changes ownership until you can provide the funds again. Voting is a really good example, and I think I posted a link to a new platform on Ador Testnet where you can play around in a safe, secure, and anonymous way with voting on blockchain. That gives you a better feeling about that. But of course, what is really important with voting on blockchain is that the private data, so who are you and for whom did you vote, is kept by design private. So this is maybe where, again, like private solutions and public solutions work hand in hand, or there are even other approaches like so-called zero knowledge proof, meaning that, so zero knowledge proof is again one of those words that have many different meanings, and you can fight a lot about like the one and only meaning you can use it for. But zero knowledge proof can one of the meanings is, or definition is, that only the network itself, so you push your private data to the network, but no human person can ever access the private part of the network. But everyone that accepted to use this blockchain system, these smart contracts, agrees on that the smart contract is written in such a decent way that we can all trust the smart contract, and that actually one private person that is eligible to vote casted the vote at the end of the day. And as I said, there are many different approaches of how votes should work, and especially how votes should work for political parties. And there are obviously also a lot of fights, because every political party wants to establish its very own system of working with the blockchain they like, or working with an identity solution they like. So from a technical perspective, I think if the gifted IT professionals from several universities stick their heads together, this is no issue at all. You can create a really perfectly working solution, but it's more or less a political decision if you opt in and if you like to use it for political votings. But more and more companies are actually using it for votings in between their, for example, owners of the companies, or shareholders. So shareholders, if it's not a public traded company, but shareholders of a limited company, for example. So smartvoting.net, have a look on this website if you like to learn more. You can log in with your testnet address of Ador to experience it. And it's a friend of mine from Switzerland. He developed this platform as part of the Ador hackathon 2 years ago, I think. It's really a great way to get a first clue and the first experience with voting on blockchain. Then, of course, logistics is something blockchain is a perfect use case, obviously, because the more complicated the chain of delivery is, the more useful automation and the more useful digital identities and the more useful of storing the data of the goods delivered on blockchain might be. So there was this a state-priced, how you call it, an award by the Austrian government recently, and one of the projects that made it into the finals was, for example, such a logistics solution. And then for musicians, so this is from a quite famous record company. They have some like smaller side companies, and one of them is already working on a solution where private people can invest into the success of a band of musicians, and even the musicians themselves can invest into their future success. And the smart contract would be in the way that every time a song is played on radio, every time someone clicks on a song on Spotify, then automatically those who are either contributors to the song or investors into the success of the song instantly receive their share or their revenue of that song. And then we have several solutions in the field of gaming, which we will anyway discuss separately. The last will is such a great example, and not only the last will as we know it by now, so basically replacing the piece of paper with your last will and automatically handling, for example, who of the family gets which share of the house the owner, the person that died owned, or the amount of money the person who died owned, but also the last will in regards to the digital agents the owner operated. So in a couple of years, we will all operate our own digital agents, and I will also talk about that in some minutes. And we also have to think about solutions handling this in our last will, and smart contracts would be a great example. Of course, who do you think, and maybe this is the first question to you, who do you think would hate if the last will is fully automatic and built on smart contracts?
Lawyers.
Yes, notaries and lawyers. So they're
Yeah,
making a lot of money with that. And so again, this is something where we have the program code in place, and we have the solutions in place, and we can write papers on the topic, and we can even we could open Ardor, and we can build such a solution, at least using the public Ardor node, maybe in 15 to 20 minutes. But the notaries would have a lot of arguments why this should not be forced by the political parties, and there should not be a law, because they, like in Austria with the notaries, I think there are like 200 notaries or something like that even allowed in Austria, and also for example in Malta. And being a notary, having the license is something that gives you a lot of value in your hands. And usually if you have kids, your kids are studying law, and then they get the license from the father, so they become the notary in the lawyer in this particular area. So smart contracts in this field, you would get maybe rid of the notaries, but maybe you can. Michael, you want to say something?
No, did it?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just didn't mute myself.
No problem.
Noise.
But maybe it could start in a way that you say, okay, I have a smart contract in place, but there is still a physical notary who has a kind of an IT forensic department, and this physical notary or this company gets paid to review the smart contract and to give the green light at the very end that this smart contract is being processed. And of course, there might maybe still thousands of last wills that are not yet on blockchain and on smart contract. So this whole transformation process, even if it's by law, if it's in place by law, might take 10, 15, 20 years to come in place. Land registry is also a very good example. So this is a photo I took in Malta 7, 8 years ago. And you don't see it on that photo actually, but somewhere on the wall is a telephone number. And if you like to purchase this property, you would have to call that telephone number. And with this particular house, that's an unofficially built house. So even if you call the telephone number, it might be a fraudulent person that just wrote his telephone number at that place. And it was very, very hard to find out who is actually the owner of this piece of land, because now and the next time I'm in Malta, I have to take a picture. Now there is on this particular place with this private beach here, there is now a 5-star hotel with only 12 bedrooms. So it's a very exclusive place now with your private beach in the south of Malta. But especially in places like Malta, so in Austria, we started this land registry in the 1960s. Then in 1980, we started the database, and it was a long way to go. But at least we have a centralized digital land registry. So I don't think there's a single square meter in Austria where you do not know to whom it belongs. And every single person in Austria, if you pay a certain fee, it's about $10, can access the database for this particular area where you like to look at, for example, who is the owner of this house or whatever. And then another really great example would be, and this is also something which is working perfectly. So you are the owner of this house, and you have the solar panels installed, and you as the owner of the house are even overproducing, for example, the amount of energy or of warm or of energy to heat the water. So you like to sell this energy to your neighbors. At the moment, it's working that way that you sell the overproduced energy back to your local energy provider, and then you get a discount on your next energy bill. But of course, it would make more sense that you can sell this energy to a price that you define in your neighborhood. And in Austria, we already have the first test areas in place where by law in the neighborhood you are allowed to opt in for a smart contract. So the government is trying to figure out if a peer-to-peer system of providing or of selling overproduced energy to the neighbor would actually make sense. And then in the field of arts, obviously you can try to create a digital asset for every physical asset in existence, so that you can only sell the Mona Lisa if the owner of the Mona Lisa also transfers the digital assets standing for the ownership with the original painting. This would also open up new possibilities. For example, if you are the owner of the Mona Lisa, but you like a gallery in New York to show it, you can work with a smart contract placed upon the digital asset where the terms and regulations are stored for the period of the exhibition. Of course, if someone steals the Mona Lisa and you don't care about the digital asset and you just keep it, because of course if you tell someone that you stole it, you would go to prison, then you don't care about the digital asset, because a painting such as the Mona Lisa is something you cannot sell on the black market, and then it's going to be exhibited at the famous gallery. And I think for paintings that are already there in the galleries, it would be maybe a process of decades to tokenize it. But maybe for digital assets, it would make sense to have the ownership also secured on a separate token, interlinked with the real digital asset, so to say, or even the real digital asset is also having this ownership part stored in the asset itself, of course, or for newly created arts, you could secure it in that way. And then social media is also a great example. If it's about ownership of the data provided, ownership of the photos uploaded, ownership of the videos uploaded, even ownership of the comments that you did. And then one of the most famous examples of the last years was Steemit. But Steemit is no longer that kind of decentralized platform you expect it to be. Basically, they were co-founders of Steemit Incorporated, operating the Steemit platform. They sold their product to other companies. They sold it, resold it again to other companies. But they have a cryptocurrency, and it's called Steem, and it's still traded in the amount of $1 million per day on the cryptocurrencies exchanges. And from a gamification point of view, we come to gamification also in a bit. But I was just confused because on the slide it says 11 a.m. I think, but it's on the slide and not actually time. I had the feeling I'm time traveling. Sorry for that. Anyway, but they have different kind of cryptographic essence. So one is the Steem, and every time you like something or you contribute, you get a certain amount of Steem. But then you can save your Steem in Steem Power. And if you have it saved in Steem Power, every time someone clicks on your articles or someone likes your articles or you contribute something, you might even receive more Steem from the bot. And then they try to build something like a stable coin, which was called the Steem dollar. I don't think it's still there, but they wanted one Steem dollar to be the equivalent of one Steem. But this was before stable coins became fancy, and companies that are now unicorn companies actually started to produce such stable coins. So I think they kind of took it offline, or you can only convert it back to Steam and not to US dollars. I have to look it up actually, but that was something in 2017 they tried to establish. And then there are platforms like Steam Now, based on the fact that you can, that the OpenAI calls to this, that Steam it offers API calls, so you as a developer can develop additional platforms that might help the Steam community. And on steamnow.com, you can enter your username. And as you see, the node is api.steam.com that you kind of try to get the information from. And then you see actually how much is your Steam power. So again, it's kind of gamified. The more Steam you hold in your account, locked in Steam power, and on that platform, you can see actually if, so for example, at that point of time in 2018, when I liked another article and this person would have sold the Steam cryptocurrencies the person received because of my like, every like I give would worth 9. Not every like, the first like of the day would be worth 9 cents. But then the second upvote would be maybe 8 cents. And so it would decline the more I like. So even I, as a user liking others, I can decide if I like maybe 5 articles a day, giving them actually some cents, or if I like thousands of articles a day, distributing my power. And only like thousands of a cent to different people. We as a Stanford University did a test run, and we had a website called @Charity Project, and we tried to write articles on a small village in Tyrol, but not in Tyrol in Austria, but in Tyrol in Brazil. Because in between the First and Second World War, Austrian citizens left Austria and they built this village in this area in Brazil. So, and we had another project actually with a researcher from that area. And so we thought about, we are going to write articles on the problem of poverty, for example, there, and on cryptocurrencies and whatever. And in a couple of months, we have a look if we receive Steams that we can sell on the market and actually help one of the schools in the area. And finally, it was a good time actually. It was this huge first hype circle of like the end of 2017. So one Litecoin at that time was, as you see here, $100. One Bitcoin was $20,000. So we had and all these small cryptocurrencies like Steam, we call them the alternative coins or the exotic coins, had a lot of value at that time. So we converted the Steam to Litecoin. We used the possibility that on Amazon Austria, using the Bitpanda platform in between, we were able to purchase Amazon vouchers. And so we were able to purchase directly on Amazon a couple of Fire tablets and like things like covers and other additional material. And then as Danube University, we sponsored with 500 euros actually sending those tablets to the school in Brazil. So this small self-run demonstrator showed that at least at that point of time, you could really have a lot of impact, and writing good articles actually gave you the chance to earn money while writing these articles. And with that, it opened a lot of other research questions. For example, if you are now writing articles on Steemit and you're actually earning money on Steemit, how do you tax these earnings in your local currency? Do you have to tax it? Do you actually need to register as a journalist because you're now making some €100 writing about particular topics? So while on the one hand, at least at this point of time, and given the hype of the platform, it worked in regards to making money and making a surplus as an author. It opened up a lot of new research questions, so to say. And here you see this photo from 3 pupils of this elementary school in Tyrol. They finally received the tablets and they were quite happy. And you find a lot of other examples how to use blockchain as a technology, assuming that it's working properly, assuming that we have digital identities attached to it. In the COVID-19 crisis on the Comparative Media Studies blog, at the beginning of the lockdown in Austria, I wrote an article which is still quite decent, I think. So I was already speaking about a lot of digital identities and blockchain. So why do you think is it, I think this is a simple question, but why do you think it is important that we have blockchain in a good way as a secure database storing data where we have all the transfers, at least the hashes, proving that the transfer happened. So we have this maybe best database in the world one day. But why do you think identity is a crucial part or might be a crucial part in combination with blockchain? Maybe you can give me the answer so I don't need to give you the answer.
I mean, it's like social security and like identity theft. People can take your credit card and purchase stuff. So like if we're transferring all of like this money into like Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and like doing all these transactions on the internet, we need to protect our online identities the same way we protect like our in-person identities.
The biggest thing with me about the identity thing is that we really don't own our own identity. And I think this is something that you and I talked about last time we talked about this, but like we don't, us ourselves, we don't actually own anything. Like it really stands out if you ever lose your license or lose your birth certificate or lose your social security card. You have to jump through all kinds of hoops just to prove to the government that you are who you say you are. But if it wasn't for them being like, okay, well, I guess I believe you, then you're no longer yourself. Like you don't own your own identity. And so that's a big thing. It would actually be yours.
That's true. And we also have to think about that it's a huge difference between the US and Europe, because in the US, everything is based on your social security card. And I think it took me like 3 weeks to receive mine. And then it's just one number. And from the moment I received it, I got a lot of telephone calls of people that wanted to fraud my social security number. So I was a little bit shocked actually that my whole identity in the US for declaring the tax, which is something I have to do as a foreigner, of course, but for many other use cases, this number on this card that the card itself maybe can be easily frauded. Of course, they print it on a high quality paper and it has some security on it. But like the first thing I wanted to do is to make a photo and store it on just in my photo gallery. So I also have it, I always have it in my hands. But then it even says in the letter, don't take a photo, store it in your safest way possible, whatever. So it was very interesting to see that I think the identity system in the US is so much relying on just one single number you get by your government. While in Europe, we work much more with our passports. We get the digital identity assigned from our local authorities. To get this digital identity, we have to prove who we are, actually speaking to a registration clerk, for example. And then with this digital identity, we can register for e-government services. We can, at the moment in the US, I think it was a huge question if you can use mail post services for casting the vote, and one candidate dislikes it and the other candidate says yes, please go for it. And in Austria, this is something we are really doing for 15 years already, you can use your online identity to register that you receive the letter. On the letter, you have to sign on the outside, and you have 2 envelopes. In one envelope, you actually cast the vote, and it has no private information. And you put that envelope in the other envelope where your name is on it. And then, okay, again, we just trust the authorities that they separate the 2 letters and then actually cast your vote anonymously. But I think this is a huge discussion we cannot, and something we cannot solve today or tomorrow, because it's a lot about how you perceive your identity. It's also a discussion about freedom. So I don't think that Americans would like to have a digital identity maybe offered by the government. So this is like a whole discussion we have to, and I think I even have it on the slides. But what are identities we know? So we know every one of us has an identity in his social media profiles. But of course, you cannot be sure if I am the Alex Pfeiffer from Vienna just because I have my photo in some postings on Facebook. With Twitter, it might be different. If you're a famous person, you can opt in for the Twitter authentication. So you have this blue box ticked next to your name. But again, we don't know if Twitter itself has been hacked, as it was some weeks ago, where the hackers were able to tweet on behalf of like everyone who is famous on Twitter. I'm sure you read about this. So with social networks and identities, we have to be at least cautious if the person pretending to be the owner of this account is actually this person. And then we have our banking cards, our Visa cards, and there we have the bank trying to verify your identity. For that, they need you need to come to the bank in the US with your social security card, and that's maybe the best way for the bank to check your identity. But then this is like a crucial moment, because on the platform of the bank, if it's you really like to use the online services, you have to input your social security number. And at that point, you have to trust the server infrastructure of the bank. And I think this is like a place where if you would be a hacker, it might be not that hard to hack into bank accounts, maybe of smaller banks, to grab the social security number from there, maybe. And in Europe, to come back to Europe, we have the eIDAS regulations. So all the countries of the European Union signed in the year 2014 a document or a law that they have to accept the digital identities between each other that are offered by the particular countries in the European Union. And for that, they had to agree on the technical specifications, as well as the specifications on how to verify at first, on how to start the chain of trust of this particular digital identity. But in fact, although we have this law in place, if you even work with other companies in the European Union, if you work even with other official entities, they are not aware that 6 years ago there is a law in the European Union that vice versa, we have to accept the digital identities. So this shows exactly the huge issue we have with digital identities. And now there is this huge approach blockchain plays to give the digital identity back in the hands of you as a person. So one approach would be from the Sovereign Foundation. But again, this is a foundation, so there were people involved who had the idea of actually creating a foundation, of setting up a particular network, of storing your identity there, of verifying your identity at first place. But a quite new approach, and this is something I personally like, is from W3C. And also basically referring to W3C, how you call it, and just know the English word, the German word, specifications maybe again, so that they all work on the same set of program code, and they have to stick to the same rule set to not confirm to, I'm so sorry. Give me a second. Like to be consistent with the code and to match the specifications. You as developers know much more than I do about W3C, of course, and that the code has to be consistent with what the W3C regulation tells you in the manual. And there has been the other hackathon recently, a blockchain hackathon, and they came up with a solution you can also try yourself if you have a testnet account on Ador and a wallet. And in their solution, they are called decentralized IDs, and they say that you run a website, and the website is offline, is kind of offline in your browser. And of course, you can review the GitHub code if it's really offline, or if it's trying to steal your passphrase, of course. Or you can rerun the code, of course, on your own infrastructure. And then you generate digital identifiers. So, for example, if you are a company, or if we run a game and we verify our users and who are our users, and then if each and every one of our users receives their own key for the digital identification within the platform that we are running. And then maybe you can combine this, or you can issue the digital identities based on SSL certificates, because SSL certificates, so for example, with danubuniversity.at, I have an email address, alexander.pfeiffer, Danube University, ACAT. So Danube University has verified me as an employer of the university, and Danube University, ACAT, as an entity has a SSL certificate, and also not even that, it's an .ac.at address. So the second way would be that as it's registered with the Austrian government, and we have the .ac in between, I can be seen as a legit person because I have an email address running on that particular internet address. So you could find and try to create workarounds that you don't need a government issued identity, you don't need an identity from a bank, but you find different ways how to verify a person and a user using your network with different approaches, and maybe 2 out of 3 have to be work out that you then give the user the identity for your platform using this DID method handler. So this is something we could even apply to digital agents in the future, AIs that maybe are working on your behalf. So for example, you want your digital agents to look up and pay the tax on your behalf. So you have a smart contract and you assign your digital agents the rights to look into your financial tax services platform. And you even give the digital agent access to pay the tax up to, let's say, 5,000 euros. And then your agent is performing this task. He or it is paying the tax to the authority, the tax to the authorities, and the proof that the tasks is being conducted, and the proof of the identities as an hash, of course, is stored on blockchain, where only you as the owner of your digital agent and the financial authorities as the service you're using have access to the private data involved in this kind of transactions. And if you think about it, in the near future, digital agents will work with digital agents hand in hand. So we are the user, we have our digital agent, there is a service also with maybe one or more digital agents in between. And blockchain and digital identities would give us the power to actually assign a sub-identity of all our digital agents that work on our behalf, with a wallet address that might be similar to our wallet address, with a sub identity based on our digital identity to start this chain of trust and to handle smart contracts between the EIs. So for example, if you think about eBay and an auction, you like to sell something, your digital agent is taking care of this, and everyone who is trying to purchase that item, all the digital agents, you set the parameters. What is the maximum amount you're ready to pay for this item, and then you just lay back, and your digital agent will tell you if you purchased the good or not, and then maybe automatically the item is already packed and at the post office, and then automatically the item is being sent to you. And if it's a digital item, it's even easier. The digital item is being processed and sent to your account. Because the problem we have right now is that even like if you have Amazon Echo, or if you have Siri, and they do not even make a difference between who gave the voice command. So even like it can come from a television series, as we had one example where someone wanted to, so that in the television series someone ordered a home for like the play toys, and then all the Amazon devices in Germany and Austria who were ready to receive commands basically purchased this toys on Amazon. So this is, I think, something we have to consider solutions and work on solutions in the near future. So now we come to the examples, on the one hand in the educational sector, on the other hand in the gaming sector. Again, smart contracts are needed if there are different parties involved. In the educational sectors, it would be, for example, teachers and learners. And it could be like that you like to store single assessments, grades, set of assessments, the final exams, whatever. And this is, of course, already done and solutions are in place, but not the metadata is stored, only the proof that it is an original document. And there's a solution called BlockCerts, originally developed at MIT, but it's now an independent company. And they're selling it as a product to different governments and different educational institutions, so that you have a digital proof that the document you provide is original. So you can go, of course, one step further and also store, as we did with Gallery Defender, store metadata like the grade itself, when was the test performed, what's the curriculum behind, and of course the digital ID of the university and the person who tried to take the exam on the token itself. I'll show that in a minute. It's quite easy at the very end of the day. What can you do with such credentials stored on blockchain? You can basically share it with a shared key to your possible employer, maybe to your parents, to get your pocket money in between the different universities, and so on and so forth. And you can use it not only to store grades, you can maybe use blockchain in education for the scholarship management, for the digital class book, not to throw out the SAT results for the whole enrollment process, or maybe even for conducting voting for the schoolboy or for other processes where voting is involved within a university. And the research done about that, so the quantitative research, descriptive statistics, is in one of the papers that I shared with you. But I asked the community for which purposes they think blockchain might be useful, and the community were actually IT experts or people from the educational sector. And so basically I asked them which steps are necessary before considering using blockchain in education. So they said that sophisticated privacy settings are important. The clear rules about who is paying the fees of the transactions, the ability to get a copy of the grades and to host your own data, for example. And of course, where can you use it? And this is something I just talked about a minute ago. So my whole project and the project where the Texas A&M, of course, helped me more than a lot in the last year are three aspects in the educational sector, or with the newest paper even four. So game-based learning and assessment, you are not even playing a game, you are trying to get a grade out of the game, and then how can you store the results. E-learning and assessment, the same, but with like a quiz or an online test that you can easily run in a learning management system. And the third part was an oral exam and verbal exam, and how could you grade right after that. So let's start with this, the test run we did. So we had our blockchain wallet, and from our blockchain wallet as a university, so for the test, we enrolled one student and we assigned our address to that particular student. So there's no private data involved, it's just the other address. It could be basically anyone until the moment you actually reveal that I am the owner of that account. So what we did is we sent a public message to ourselves as the account owners with the list of enrolled students, in this case, one other address. Then we set up an approval model. In this case, two accounts had to approve that if the exam is over and we performed the grading process, we ourselves have to approve it. That's important for later when, so that the token is being sticked, the token transferred is being sticked. The token information is being sticked to the token being sent from one account to another, so that the student cannot resend the token to someone else. And in this case, even the student has to accept the grade. So usually after like this really important exams in Austria, the student, him or herself, has to sign that he accepts the grade, so that they cannot complain later on. Even if you receive your certificates, you have to sign that this is legit and you're not going to complain about that you just received your master degree, because you would have 1 month to officially complain if you have the feeling something is wrong, if it's not the right grade, if it's not the right certificate, if your name is spelled wrong or whatever. So you as the student and we as the sender have to agree that in the moment the token transfer is started, that the token is actually being sent and accepted from in the transfer process. The description of the token is: this token certifies a successful completion of the master thesis examination at the Center for Applied Game Studies. So this would be the public information everyone would know clicking on the asset ID, but the asset ID is something that you can decide not to cast to the blockchain itself and make it available public. So, of course, there are many different ways, and then this is boring for Michael because he knows everything about it, but you can either say that every exam is a singleton token. So every exam is a singleton asset, meaning it has a different asset ID on the blockchain. Or you can create a pre-designed set of tokens. Then every master degree with that text has the same asset ID, but while sending the asset from one account to another, of course, the transaction itself would generate an ID itself, and this would then be unique. In our cases, we always attach the message to the token, encrypted or unencrypted, and the token is here then sent from the university address to the learner. And we have these approval models in place. And I just did a test, and I assigned final certificate in our group, and this is the newest test for the paper that is currently under review. As I had to submit the paper last week, I wanted to do it actually live with you, but I had to play around a bit, and then I started a focus group in another Moodle. But the main idea was that I created 5 different tokens here. So we have the approval model, in this case, as a token. The main idea is that the account owner of this token is like the master account to set approval models. And then we have 1 token for the learner with the metadata included. We have 1 token with the unencrypted message, which just contains the name of the course and with no disclosing personal data. So basically this token could mean that you passed the exam, but if you like to dig deeper, knowing who passed the exam, with which grade, then you need to send your shared key to the person to unlock the message. Then we have the token to the teacher with the encrypted metadata again, with more information about the certificate. And then similar to what we tried at first with Gallery Defender, you can say you have some sort of gamification. For example, you award a token to the best in class. So this would be like the for how I describe it in the paper, one of the test transactions within the focus group that I conducted. And you see here the teacher receives a confirmation of the transmission of the grade. So what we actually did is we did not perform an exam. We just pretended that we just performed an exam, and then as encrypted message, we defined how such a transfer would look like and which data would be included in this transfer. But what you get at the end would be, for example, this certificate that you can print out, award it to a particular person, and then on the certificate you would have the transaction hash, and we performed that on r.testnet. So you could easily look up those hashes in one of the block explorers. And if you have your private key, or if you have the shared key, you can even encrypt the data attached to it. So with such a certificate in hands, if you apply for a job, if you apply to study at another university, it would be 1 click to basically show that this is an original certificate. And even if we issue such a certificate in Moodle, so if you just use Moodle, you have to believe that for the digital certificate, the university continues to run Moodle forever so that you can get access to your grade. But with putting it on blockchain, you have the second chance. And as long as you run your own node by yourself, you hold the data and you have the ownership of the data, and you can prove that this is an original certificate. And there we need, again, digital identities in a way that is accepted by the government, it is accepted by other universities, whatever, that proves that the original issue of such certificates is, in our case, the Danube University. And then another, so what was an output from the focus group and the learning for like the next game or the next thing is that you can even send, like you send this, the very generic non-encrypted digital proof of this certificate in 1 block, and then you wait 1 minute, and then you send the metadata in the next block, and then you include the hash of the certificate here in the metadata related to this certificate. So you can even be sure that the issuing of the certificate itself with the non-encrypted data and the metadata are even linked with each other cryptographically, so you cannot fraud. So if you do not link it, and this was a learning from the focus group, someone could use any non-encrypted digital proof of a certificate from a university, but then fraud the second transaction, because if so, for example, you enroll for another program and they would just like to know that this is a certificate per se, and they maybe would not dig into it deeper and control every kind of digital identity or every digital signature provided. So there would still be the possibility to fraud something here. So it would be nice if you even interconnect all these transfers with each other. So before we go to the gaming part, anything you like to learn more or discuss in regards to the educational part? And just what I do now is I will, as it's getting dark now and my test, it's because I just bought the green screen and you see it's getting dark, so the green screen is coming at the back. I will delete this here. Are you still alive?
Yes.
Could
Okay,
we possibly take like a 5-minute break?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's take a, I don't know, 10 minutes break and meet at 10 to 6.
Sounds good.
And I can play around in the meanwhile with my green screen and remove it. So let me stop the broadcast. So blockchain and gaming. This is actually, so most of the slides here, I gave a talk earlier this year at the FTG conference. And this is also the paper from the FTG conference. Should have most of the things in it, but that was the starting slide of this talk. And there was this joke on Facebook a day before I gave this talk, and it says like, Niantic pulls plug on Pokemon after 4 years. And imagine that they really, on Pokemon Go after 4 years. So imagine they pull the plug, and imagine that you spend thousands of hours, I would even say, if you are an experienced player, and maybe some of the players hundreds or even thousands of dollars for upgrades, packages, and then you lost all your Pokemons in Pokemon Go, and maybe Niantic sells the brand to some other company, or Nintendo itself wants to run Pokemon Go too. And then you have to start again from the beginning. You have to collect the same type of Pokemons with another set of graphics or whatever. A little bit similar to what is happening year by year with games like FIFA, but obviously they do it because they want to earn money. So this is called Football Ultimate Team, and you collect your squad, and then you restart again. And this is, of course, for the purpose to that Electronic Arts is making more and more money, but they could also interconnect the games with each other. And if they secure all the digital assets on blockchain, even if the older server is no longer running, like if they always connect, if they would now connect as they do it right now with at least your name and other things, they connect FIFA 19 with FIFA 20 and then FIFA 20 with 21. But if they would secure the data on blockchain, they would not have to care about the old versions of the data sets, and every player would own the digital assets and all data related to the game, and it could be easily accessed. So we now have these different chapters or these different use cases on how to use blockchain in digital gaming. And the first is just what I spoke about a second ago. It's collectibles, collecting as a game mechanic, or collecting itself as a game. And here the most famous example on a blockchain-based collectible game is CryptoKitties. I'm quite sure that you have heard about CryptoKitties, right? At least somewhere, no?
Yes, I have.
So CryptoKitties was the first famous blockchain-based collectibles game on the Ethereum blockchain. So you have to possess Ethereum as a cryptocurrency. And then with that, you can purchase to your blockchain-based wallet your CryptoKitties as a digital asset. And each CryptoKitty is unique. So the developers developed a genetic digital code for the CryptoKitties. They started with a starting set of CryptoKitties, and then you have to breed CryptoKitties, meaning that you have to stick one CryptoKitty with another CryptoKitty to have a virtual date. And then after a certain period of time, the breeding time, you have a new CryptoKitty with the genetic code of both kitties that breed it, similar as we humans get our babies, or everyone is making babies. You can make digital CryptoKitty babies. And then they have like every CryptoKitties has kind of a unique lookalike. You can name them. They have a unique code on the internet. They are unique assets. NFT are they called? Non-fungible assets. And there are generations of CryptoKitties. So obviously generation 0 would be the starting generation. And they have certain attributes assigned to them. And what you see here, for example, on the screenshot is there is breed now price. And what was brilliant is that they did not develop their own cryptocurrency in form of a token that has some value, and you need to possess that token to perform tasks in CryptoKitties. Their design is, we do everything with the main currency, we do everything with Ethereum. And that might be the reason why it's so successful. So you don't have to purchase like crypto breeding tokens, and then you also have to possess Ethereum because you have to pay the fees to the network to transfer the tokens and so on and so forth. And then maybe those crypto tokens would have been even tradable, and one day people traded, the other not. So the decision to really use the main currency Ethereum was a good one. And then you see the breeding price. So to have this CryptoKitty having, so that this CryptoKitty is having virtual breeding activity with another kitty would cost you 0.04 Ethereum. I think one Ethereum is at the moment $300, so it would not be that much. But, and this is the problem we have with Ethereum right now, the costs that you have to pay to the network that any task is performed or that you pay a bill with Ethereum went up by 4,000 times since March this year. So while the breeding itself would maybe cost you 2 cents, the fee that you have to pay to the network, like to listen computers, like now to breed a kitty, I pay you to process the data would be maybe now $25. So that is the huge problem that most of the games on Ethereum have right now, that each single transaction costs you as the player quite a lot of money. That is why for the moment we say that all those games where you secure assets on Ethereum at the moment not really payable, not really playable, because they're too expensive to just perform a single task there. But for CryptoKitties, as it's such a huge brand, they even gifted 2 CryptoKitties to President Trump and Secretary Clinton. So CryptoKitties are even now part of the US National Archives. And there are, of course, a lot of other games. So one that I can recommend, it's in beta, and I think the testnet version can be played for free. But as with testnet, of course, everything is on testnet, so it has no value of some sort. You can just play around with it. This game is called Tarasca. On our MAD conference, there was a talk from the Spanish developers on this game, and it's a card collectibles game of beautiful art. Developed by the graphic designer of Tarasca. So each card is unique by design, and you also kind of possess the artwork, but then you can use this artwork and like this fantasy creatures you see on it in this card game they are going to build around it. Another game, but this is again based on Ethereum, so that's why they have issues right now. It's called Cryptic Legends. It is from a Maltese company, and quite similar. They're creating unique art pieces, but they also have this hero story, this kind of Lord of the Rings approach of a good narration, and your characters that you own are then playing a part of the story being told by the developers of the game. But as the testnet version is also on testnet Ethereum, it's fine, and you can play it, and it would not cost you money. But on the Ethereum network, you would have to invest quite a lot of money, not only to purchase the card packs, but also to pay for the transactions. And then this is an example from the commercial market. I hope that you all know Panini. But you all know the trading cards from NBA and so on and so forth. I'm not sure if they are from Panini. I don't think so. They're from other companies. But in Europe, there's this Italian company called Panini, and you see they even have this NBA trading cards and so on. But they have this trading cards for European soccer, and every time there is a World Cup going on, you have the sticker albums. So you purchase the stickers, you have to unwrap them, and hopefully one day you trade the stickers, and the album is, you have all the stickers collected. And they now start actually to secure their stickers on blockchain and to create special albums where the assets that you collect are unique, and you can put them into your virtual sticker album, so to say. Because there is a huge market from sticker albums, let's say from the 1950s, 60s, 70s. They are sold at the moment for quite a huge amount of money. But of course, the newest World Cup seems to be like worthless or just intrinsic value for you. So you have to keep those albums for a decade and more, in the hope that many people will lose their albums, that one day they will have some sort of value. So they started not only this classic approach that you have to go to like a supermarket or order the stickers online, but you now can also collect the stickers virtually, and then they secure it on blockchain so that the items keep some sort of value. And that's a good point, items. So when you think about games like World of Warcraft or any other massive multiplayer online game, you have, of course, different types of items. And there is like a standard color set. So gray items are worthless items. Green items have some sort of magic attached. Epic items are assets that have value, that are rare. At least they have value until the next version of the game comes out, the next big update that you have to purchase. But some of those items even have value that if they are part of a particular set, although your character, it makes no sense that your character is using this item anymore, but you keep it in your virtual safe. And then we have the legendary items. And if you think about game crime, for example, and then someone steals the, as we discussed in the first session, someone steals an avatar and then tries to sell or transfer to another account all the items, and then you tell Blizzard, hey, my account has been hacked, and then they restore your account with all the items in it, and you had a legendary item, and suddenly 2 legendary items would be on the server, maybe, if it's a real unique one time per server item. And of course, Blizzard could then do digital forensic and think about like who purchased this other legendary item from whom. But then you could say, no, I bought it on the auction house of the game, so I'm not a fraudulent player. And then Blizzard leaves maybe both virtual legendary items on the server, regarding on their policy. And but they want the players to be happy, and they maybe do not care that much on the digital economy in the game. But blockchainizing these items, and even if it's not a public blockchain, but a consortium-based blockchain or a private blockchain in a company, because obviously they host the game in different countries, a system like that might help to find fraudulent activities earlier, and it might help to reverse engineer or even to prevent fraudulent transactions of hackers and of accounts that have been stolen. And there are even games that are nowadays completely based on in-game items and blockchain-based transactions. And if you like to try them out, I think there are also for both games testnet versions. So you have testnet bitcoins, they're not your real bitcoins. One is called Light Knight, and the other one is called Bitcoin Bounty Hunter. And for Bitcoin, there has been a recent development, which was really a breakthrough for the Bitcoin network 2 years ago. It is called the Lightning Network. What is this Lightning Network? It is a second layer solution built upon Bitcoin. And this basically helps you to keep those transaction fees quite low, and also to conduct instant transactions, so you don't have to wait 10 minutes or more. How does it work? So basically, you as a provider of such a Lightning wallet would secure this wallet, let's say with 1 Bitcoin, then it would be secured with transactions up to 10,000 US dollars or up to 1 Bitcoin. And you would process transactions up to 1 Bitcoin just secured by your smart contract run on this second layer. But if your amount of transactions reach that 1 Bitcoin, so the final mark, so to say, then the hash of all the transactions is then broadcasted to the real Bitcoin blockchain. It's something that is, of course, discussed a lot. How secure is the system? But the last 2 years have turned out that this seems to be a way how to use the old school Bitcoin blockchain and the old school Litecoin blockchain for much quicker and cheaper transactions, on the one hand within games, but on the other hand, also, for example, if you like to purchase just a quick cup of coffee. And instead of using your Visa card or your bank card, you can use cryptocurrencies. And then we had in the gaming sector, in regards to digital items, approaches that failed, and where we can learn a lot from it. And one of those approaches is the game Beyond the Void. As you see, early access September 2017. So this is a game you can still play on Steam, or you can still download it. And their main idea was that they have one kind of cryptocurrency, which is the token called Nexium. And with the token called Nexium, you can purchase all the in-game items, which is like Clash of Clans. You purchase jewels, or you earn jewels in the game, and with that you can upgrade your towers. The big problem with Nexium was, and this is what maybe the most important learning for you as game designers that might work with blockchain one day, is that the token used in the game to purchase the in-game items was also traded on the cryptocurrencies exchanges. So as you see here, like in April 17, where is the US dollar price? One token of Nexium maybe costs 10 dollar cents. On the end of December 17, it's one token costs you 40 dollar cents, and January 18th, one token costs you 80 dollar cents. And let's assume that for one token, you get one light gun in the game. So if you bought the token to purchase the in-game light gun, it was a huge gamble. If you bought the token cheaply, then of course the light gun was cheap. If you bought the token for a high price, of course the light gun was very expensive. But it also happened that not only the players bought this token, but it was used as a highly speculative asset. So people that had no clue about the game just bought the asset because, like, the chart told them that having this asset would be a good investment. And then, of course, people that just invested the money and wanted to make money out of it sold the tokens. And then the players are now even no longer able to purchase the tokens on a cryptocurrency exchange, because then, of course, everyone was disappointed. It was unfair in the game that some players had the best light gun, others had no light gun at all. It was, of course, difficult to actually get the token because you had to be registered and verified on a cryptocurrency exchange. So the legit exchanges work in a way that you have to show them your passport, you have to give them your name, an email address, a telephone number, and so on and so forth. And then the cryptocurrency exchange tries to look into if you as an American are to be registered and allowed to purchase those items, for example. And then of course, there are different tiers, so to say. So with some sort of registration, you can trade up to $100 a day. With another kind of registration, you can trade up to $10,000 a day, depending on the account. And this was a huge learning. So their problem was that they had just one token, and the speculators, as the players, had to purchase the same token on the free market. And then suddenly the token disappeared, or not. The token might still be registered, of course, on blockchain, but the trading of the token disappeared. Maybe in the game, people could still trade the token, but the game is no longer working. So I tried to start it some weeks ago, and you don't find any other players on the servers. So you would have to separate the token structure. If you like to opt in, like with crowdfunding, to have, or instead of shares, and you go to a regular stock exchange, you need, in my opinion, separate the token that you use to be an investor, like we had earlier today with the band, with the musicians, from the token that is being used in the game. And then I think it is very, very important that even this token is not traded on a free exchange, but as everyone is now doing with not offline tokens, but with non-cryptocurrency based, not non-blockchain based tokens, simply it should still be a centralized thing that The company issuing the tokens are controlling them, but the player would at the end have a benefit, and that is why blockchain makes sense. So imagine that you purchase tokens for Clash of Clans, but you stop playing the game, or maybe you are playing Clash Royale now. So you could easily transfer your tokens to your wallet from the other game and maybe pay the company for this. But at least you could keep your tokens, or you can sell it as one player to the other player, your tokens. You would get some revenue back of the token. So for example, if one token is worth $1, and then you as a player decide to sell your tokens, you would give your tokens back to the company, and then someone would purchase the token for $1, and you get, for example, 80 cents still out of this. So you would only have to pay for tokens you really use. And if you have unused tokens, it would give you the opportunity to sell it back to other players. Of course, maybe the company would make less money at the beginning, but if companies that have many, many different brands start to tokenize their in-game items, maybe at the end of the day, this would give more players trust in the game economy, would give more players the chance to try out other games of the same publisher. So, for example, I would try out Clash Royale if I could use some of my assets from Clash of Clans. Maybe I would more willing to do so. So this would be like one example on how such a gaming economy would look like. Gamification. We all know about gamification, and similar to the digital items, offline or not offline, off blockchain data entries would be just regular database entries you either like to keep for privacy purposes or that have no value. But then when there's something that comes to value for the players, like the points, the badges, and so on and so forth, that you can secure as a blockchain-based asset. And this is the newest learning we have from our two games that we are developing at the moment. One is called Hot City, the other one is called Cycle for Value. So in the first iterations, we did this huge mistake, but that's the good thing about science. We have more, about research, we have more iterations, because we had one token at first. So if you played the Hot City game, you received one token, that the token was counting the points of your high score. And then also this one token was basically the token we wanted to use, that you get the perks, or you get like the vouchers, you get the gifts because you are part of the game. But how should you handle this? Because you have the token with the metadata in the wallet, and you maybe send this token to the store, and then you would have to count the history of the transaction to still keep your high score alive. So we tried to solve this problem, and I think we solved it with creating an additional token. One token is every time a player performs a task, he or she receives the token with the metadata attached with approval model, so that the token cannot be sent to another account. But this person also receives a second token. This second token does not hold any private data. The second token does not even hold any particular metadata besides the original transfer itself. And this token then can be used for the purchase in the shop, whatever. And so this huge problem if you just operate with one type of token is no longer existing, because we were finally able to set up the ecosystem. And for the moment, we send the token to our own shop address. And if then the player purchases something, we generate a message to ourselves. And then the external partners have access to the message to ourselves. And in this message, we have defined some keywords like the names of the shops to make this difference between like who finally has to give a perk to a player, and to us who finally have to pay that the partners agreed to give such gifts or to give a discount. And paying for us could either mean that we really have to pay as the providers of the game for this gift, or it means that, for example, we display 5,000 times their advert, and displaying 5,000 times their advert values 500 euros, and 500 euros is the amount equals to 50 cups of coffee, and so 50 cups of coffee will be given to our players. And then if you think about badges and achievements, that can then be easily based on the token A with the metadata. And you can say that if you have 1,000 points, you get the achievement automatically transferred from the game to the wallet of the player, stating, congratulations, your first 1,000 points, whatever. You know how gamification works. So our two projects, one is Hot City. With Hot City, the players in Vienna and Graz have to make photos of, and I think I described it in the gamification session already, but you have to make photos of heat leaks. And for that, you get rewarded in points and in tokens. And here we even have 3 different colors of heat tokens. And it's a game in the game that we have a smart contract in place where you can inter-exchange those tokens and can decide for which kind of voucher you actually like to use it. But you have to be aware that maybe for the big prizes where you need the gold tokens, there might just be one player having the opportunity to receive that prize. So it's a like an we try out how this system with 3 different colored tokens could work out at the end. The other game we're producing right now, the other gamification, it's called Cycle for Value. Both projects are funded by the Austrian government, so it's really great because with the results, maybe the government will push such developments further. And when you ride your bike up to 8 kilometers per day, so you get up to 8 points per day. So you get 8. So it's, for example, you ride your bike 4 kilometers. You receive the token with the metadata. When did you start your ride? Where did you perform the ride? Whatever. And then you get the second 4-point token that you can use, for example, in a bike shop for bike repairs. And then you ride 6 kilometers. And 6 is then more. 6 and 4 is 10. So you just get 4 tokens again of each kind because it's the maximum of 8 tokens per day. And this token should motivate Austrians to ride the bike, but there are also other opportunities to receive tokens. For example, if you help the digital map to improve further. So for example, if you are using a forest path and there was a storm and a tree has fallen on the path, and you click the alert button, and so you contribute to the quality of the data, and then you would also receive separate vouchers or gifts and so on and so forth. Then game-based learning and assessment. This is the game developed by the Live Lab. So you start with inserting your outdoor blockchain address and verify the account, or you use the default address. Then this is based on game-based learning and assessment. So we use the same game engine for the learning part and the assessment part. And if you click on the assessment part, you get the warning that now actually your results will be recorded. So you play the game. You know the game, it's your game. You get at the end a grading. So 300 seconds, 10 correct answers, 100 points, grade A. And this actually then equals, so the encrypted message on the token. So this is now the perspective from the other wallet. Speaking about wallets, in such a wallet you see the amount of like specific cryptocurrencies that you hold in this particular wallet, and also assets, as we're discussing the whole day, that are part of your wallet. In this case, we transferred like this game token storing, one piece of the game token storing the results from the game engine to the learner. The learner enters his or her passphrase. This decrypts the message, so you see your results, and it with 330 seconds, then correct. It equals the information you receive from the game, and this generates the shared key. And then you can provide the shared key, for example, to your future boss. And then the future boss would see the message, "Dear future boss, attached you find the shared key to my grading certificate." And if he enters the shared key, he would have the opportunity to see the results. And of course, while we here are just like transferring the result itself, in the message, you would need also to verify and transfer the digital identities involved, who is actually behind the accounts, or for example, a link to the curriculum. So we designed a model of different tokens, similar to the other approaches, one token for the teacher, one token for the learner. And as approval model, we also have an approval token in place, as in one example I already showed you before. The same with the Gallery Defender quiz, but while with the quiz, it's a little bit different. So every time a learner passes the exam, the game sends a request to the blockchain to issue a singleton asset, as we also discussed before, an asset with a unique asset ID that is a unique registered virtual item on virtual asset on the blockchain. And then we have two possibilities to store information, because then we could use the asset properties, the information with which the additional information with which the asset is stored on blockchain, and we can use the encrypted or not encrypted message for additional data. While with Gallery Defender, we produced 100 million tokens beforehand, and in the asset property would just say this is a token for Gallery Defender. So every one of these 100 million tokens has the same asset property and the same asset ID. And in the encrypted message, we distribute the metadata. So you would have one other option to store data, but of course it's more costly, because you see here the fee paid to the network, and this is testnet. So it's, besides that the tokens are worthless by design on testnet, on the real outdoor blockchain, every transaction would cost at 8 cents. And now imagine you have hundreds of thousands of such transactions per day as an operator of an educational system. So using a public blockchain here would maybe be then expensive on the other side. So this was basically like the game-based learning part. And then we have esports. And for esports, the part where blockchain is used at the moment is, on the one hand, to just recording the results from the esport games, so that no one can, after a week or whatever, be fraudulent and just write in the database that someone else won, or that the result is differently. Because of, if you compare it with like the NFL, of course, something like that would not be possible, as there are millions of people watching the results and recording it. But maybe, for example, with a school league esports game, maybe a teacher would like to manipulate the results, or a pupil. And the other thing where it is actually used is to bet on esports, which gives you the opportunity, like for peer-to-peer betting. For example, Michael and I can have a peer-to-peer bet. Either we watch together a professional esports game, and we use these decentralized platforms to bet versus each other. And the smart contract is the referee, so that if Michael wins, it's for sure that he gets my cryptocurrencies, because I had to lock it before. At the moment we confirm the bet, I lock the funds, and if he wins, he gets my funds. And on the other hand, we could even play our own games and bet on the result of our own games. And then at the end, we have speculation, of course, as a huge game. And Hero Coin, this is an Austrian game. It was the first like Austrian blockchain platform that got permission by the authorities to run their own coin system. And we had this CryptoKitties example before. And with Hero Coin, we have this huge problem that really no one is actually trading the Hero Coin on the markets. It's 500 euros per day. So if you have a lot of those tokens, you have to find someone, don't want to say someone stupid, but you have to find someone who is really keen on having these tokens and then use them to bet on results. So what they actually changed, and this is the reason why no one is trading the Hero Coin, is that they're also now using the token of the network itself, and everything you use on the Hero Coin, everything you do on the Hero Coin platform is with Ethereum. And then, of course, we have Twitter, and we have people with hundreds of thousands of followers. And if they tweet something, it can have an impact on the price of the tokens. So now with maybe Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, Bitcoin, of course, a single tweet might not have this impact. But with all those tokens that have a small trading volume where not so many people like to trade it per day, good news or bad news can have, of course, impact on the price. We are nearly at the end, but this is something that we designed for an Austrian company and a very early stage prototype. And the main idea is, can we run a game, the executable of a game and the game itself, the game servers, in a full decentralized way? So we have here those people who had to run the ecosystem. What does it mean? Those people, and again, think about Napster, all these old sharing platforms of games and videos or whatever. So you allow people to have access on your hard disk and download a part, of course, not maybe the full access, but someone who would like to download the game has access to 500 computers at the same time to download a bit of the game here and there, and at the end he has the final file and can install the game. But they also, for example, rerun esports games. So this was a sports game, and in the sports game there was a lot of fraud that people were using AI-based not plugins, because like they were installed illegally on their computer, but those AIs were basically using the keystrokes on behalf of the user. But of course, with trying to look deeply into on how often which button was pressed, or if like the perfect run was conducted exactly the same way 5 times in a row, then, because later on in season 2 and 3 and 4, the company providing this game originally had another AI in place trying to find those this cheat software, basically playing the sports game on your behalf. And so basically you can say that the community itself acts as a referee and is rerunning the sports game in the keystrokes of the sports game immediately after such a esports session has been played. So everyone who helps to run the ecosystem receives game tokens from those who just like to be players, who just like to purchase the game tokens to play the game, or to purchase virtual items. And now comes basically the clue. So everyone who is part of the ecosystem receives those virtual items, and then there is the store. And in the store, there's a mechanic in place that, like, not one whale, one who is really running hundreds of computers to assist with the game, is then the first one to sell all his virtual tokens. But for example, he can sell only tokens for 100 euros. And then even one of those who just do it on their private laptop and help the game will then have the opportunity to sell their tokens to the players. But of course, if you help to run the game, you can just use the tokens that you earned through providing assistance in the gaming economy to play the game yourself, or to purchase virtual items. Then mining itself can be perceived as a game mechanic. I started my talk with the topic of mining a little bit, and there are 2 algorithms. One is called proof of work. So here you have either GPU or CPU power to find a really long and difficult random number in a particular of time. And if you are the first computer finding this random number, you receive the so-called mining reward, which could be newly created bitcoins up to this 21 million bitcoins that will be inexistent. And of course, you get a good share of the mining fees that people paid within this time frame of 10 minutes to keep the network alive. Another mining algorithm, so this is like the mining algorithm that really burns a lot of energy, which I would say is good for like Bitcoin, for example, which represents a monetary value in the high billions. For other networks that we are using, for example, to store our game items or give grades, I would suggest that we are not wasting the energy here, but we use another algorithm which is called proof of stake, and the platform where Michael was part of the team creating the game. We used a hardware NXT, and there it is about that there's a total of 100 million tokens of this kind in existence, and if you have a certain stake of these tokens, and if you run a node, then, and of course some random elements, this defines the chance on the fact if you receive the so-called mining reward of the transactions. And that you can run on a Raspberry Pi with a solar panel. While here you need a lot of computer power, this really doesn't need any power at all. You can even run it nowadays on your Android smartphone, for example. And then there are even, like these are the two major algorithms for verifying transactions and keeping the same record on all the different nodes, so that you stick to the same kind of information. And then some people tried to build games like Never Die, but the owner of this brand even changed, I think, 3 or 4 times. And the newest version is America VR. And then the idea is that you play the game, and while playing this game, while running around in the gaming world, while maybe mining with your X in the game for gold, these tasks performed is maybe the same task that here a CPU or GPU performed. So it's the proof of work, the proof that someone is performing some kind of activity, and then this makes the chance greater that you, with the tasks that you performed, or the computers you operate, or your players and your team of players you're in with, gets the mining rewards. I am quite cautious here because they really put people on their website saying that they endorse this product. And I would love to write an email to Richard Garriott if he knows, for example, that his photo is on the website. What we saw a lot the last years is that some blockchain-based products that want investors or private people to purchase their tokens so that they can then sell it on the market and so on and so forth. We're using celebrities without the celebrities knowing about that to attract more people. And that brings us to the chapter of fraud. And there, please be careful in your first steps of actually purchasing cryptocurrencies. So please do everything in the first year, maybe just on testnet, what you program. And if you like to invest, go for the well-known cryptocurrencies on cryptocurrency exchanges that are verified by the American authorities, because there's a lot of fraud and websites and people that like to sell you something that is not the real thing you like to purchase. My wife, she's currently watching a TV series called Victoria, and basically in this TV series, the staff of the households, the workers, they were investing in certificates of the new built railroads. And in her last episode, one of the workers found out that the certificate he has in his hand from London to the city XYZ, that the city XYZ does not even exist. And so he invested all of his money in a fraudulent piece of paper he can put in the waste paper basket. And the same happens here a lot with cryptocurrency assets. So in the last years, there were the so-called ICOs. They were called the initial coin offerings. So I have a great idea, and I pre-sell you my tokens you can use maybe in a year or two to play my game. And there were so many fraudulent activities, like this website called that they create the newest version to help farmers in their country to sell their products. And then when they collected 3 million euros in their fraudulent cryptocurrency token, they wrote the word penis on the website and were running with the tokens. So they basically purchased so-called privacy coins. Privacy coins are really hard to track, but they are also traded on some cryptocurrency exchanges. So the local authorities are still trying to figure out who is behind this fraud. to sum up my talk and the findings of the last 2 years, or maybe even the last 7 years of research in the field, is that for what we do, securing blockchain-based assets for games or education, I would suggest a public blockchain, proof of stake, where you can be the boss of your own data, where you can keep your own data, or maybe even a combination of a public and a private blockchain, so that the private data keeps safe, but still the private blockchain transfers the hash of the transactions in a certain period of time to the public blockchain. So then, like a university can say, okay, until now, you cannot manipulate the data. The next 10 minutes, you would be able to manipulate the data. But after the next hash of the block is transferred to the public blockchain, it would be again impossible to manipulate the data. And if data has been manipulated in this 10 minutes and something found out that something wrong happened, then the university would need to publish a new transaction with kind of an update of the database, but the block with the fraudulent activity would still exist on blockchain. So you would never have the possibility to overwrite a data set and then press the save button. Tokens should not be retransferred freely between the accounts. Transactions are paid by the issuer of the software or the university and never by the users. So the users might not even know that blockchain secures the database instead of a classic PHP or MySQL database. It should always be possible to encrypt the messages so that the particular metadata is private. And I had this slide about this digital identifiers on Ardor, this project which won the hackathon. And one of the main use cases, besides giving someone or something identity, is that you could link this kind of software with the private key, so that the private key is not human readable. So the user is using the DID system just as a user password. And imagine that the computers get faster and faster and faster, and maybe you could even decrypt algorithms you think now in the year 2020 are impossible to hack. This would, although blockchain is used in the whole process, this would give users the opportunity to set a new master key, not again readable by humans, with a higher stage of encryption, and this would make the whole system future-proof. So again, and another thing that is important, which you also use at Gallery Defender with the tokens we send to the teacher, is pruning. Pruning means that you can delete the private data after a particular point of time set in the so-called block height. So the block height is the simple counter from 1 to infinite in regards to in which block we are in right now, so to say, or which block was in the past. And you can calculate, maybe not exactly in the minute in 10 years, but basically what will be the block, a block in 10 years. And then you can set this block height, and then the message is being deleted while the proof of transaction remains on the blockchain. So that users can always operate a copy of the blockchain so that you own the data yourself. Of course, the combination with digital identities, something that is a discussion we have to talk about next years, how you can have a secure identity and how can you store the secure data on such a secure database as blockchain should be. Then the electronic ID wallets, which is basically my proposal, and you can read about it in some of the papers. So you hold a wallet which is not storing the cryptocurrencies as tokens for trading, but the non-tradable utility tokens which give you access to certain services or store your credentials. You also have your digital identities related to your electronic ID wallet. So for example, my health data is always related to my European digital identity from the EIDAS legislation framework. But maybe for something like a concert ticket worth 20 euros, it's okay if it's just linked to my verified Twitter account, for example. And then all your electronic ID wallet is capable of processing utility tokens from many, many different blockchain systems. So this is not just an Ardor wallet, not just an Ethereum wallet. You can have a concert ticket or a CryptoKitty on Ethereum. You can have your learning credentials from Gallery Defender, and your electronic ID wallet is capable of reading and processing both and combine both with your digital identity. And then you can generate shared keys. Shared keys, not as we have it right now with Gallery Defender, that would work forever and forever. So basically, if you give the future boss, in our example, the shared key, he or she would have unlimited access forever to that information. So it needs to be possible to generate like sub-shared keys that you can attach to a particular email address and a particular time frame, and then you send it by email to a person, and this person has only access for a limited time frame. And you maybe can even define a set. So for example, you have the certificate from Danube University here on the Ethereum blockchain. You have the certificate from Texas A&M on the Ardor blockchain, and you can generate a set of information with a sub-shared key. You send this set by email to a person and give him a week access to verify that this is an original data, or to give him even access to the metadata to look into like other information of the grading itself. So the last slide, I think, is the biggest issue of blockchain, that each wallet now is basically related to a private key. And if you lose this private key, you lose access to your data. And no one is possible to restore this private key. So if you think about creating gaming environments, as I already mentioned, we maybe have to create the private key, make it unreadable for humans and even for us as publishers, but link it to a classic user password system. And maybe this could be on a centralized database that we provide, or we use this DID system, W3C compliant. Compliant was the word that I was looking into an hour ago. So, and because I think in 10, 15 years from now, people will learn how to operate with the shared key, but until this particular point of time, you can't just create a system and rely on the shared key. Just think about how often yourself have clicked on "please restore my password" in any application, game, whatever you are using. That's what I just talked about. And the homework, which is of course not an official homework, but if you like to play around with blockchain, and the blockchain where I can help you, if you send me a question any point of time you're playing around, is the testnet of the Ardor blockchain. And since Michael and the team were working with it, a lot of things happened actually. So you can play around on the testnet. Testnet means that you can fund your wallets with testnet tokens, and those testnet tokens have, of course, no value. That is even why you do not need to download the full node and install it on your computer. You can use the testnet even on a website. And as it does not matter if someone steals your private key, because all what you're doing is on testnet, just play around on the website. Of course, if you ever use the mainnet, never ever reveal your private information just on the website. Maybe only if you run your node yourself and you have linked it to a website you run yourself, like we have with our Austrian company and with Danube University. But with this generic, so just on celloreader.com, if they would run a full node, do not reveal your address there. What changed since we generated Gallery Defender, and what would have helped us a lot, is that you can now not only start an account with your key or generate a key or the Ardor account number, you can generate master seeds. So this would mean that when you click on testardor.celloreader.com, you can say create the master seed. Then you can click on advanced, And then you can say, okay, and I want to control 15 accounts with my master seed. And even if you need more accounts later on, you can just click the button and say generate more accounts. And then you would have this master seed where you have control over all the accounts. In our case, it would be we generate 100 accounts because we say for the moment we need 100 gallery defender players. Then those accounts could reveal their private keys, which maybe only they know. We would not know them, but we would still have account over the control over the accounts with our master seed key. So this is also the issue here, because if I generate it here on the platform, of course, this code is human readable. So if you really work on a system here, maybe we need a possibility to hide this master key even for you as the owner of the platform. Or you reveal publicly that, of course, as you are the owner of the service, you still have the possibility to manipulate accounts. But this, again, if you manipulate an account, if you start a transfer from an account, it would be on blockchain and you could not hide that you played around with a particular account. If you now want to, so if you now have you started either your single account for like your first steps and later on your master seed, if you develop applications, you can fund your account with fake coins, with testnet coins. If you just click on ador.world _ignis or _ador, and you put your wallet address here, and they would send you 1,500 fake coins on your account. And with Ador Ignis, if you look around it deeper, and they also offer a lot of educational material on the website, it's a so-called main chain child chain system. So Ador is securing all the child chains, and the child chains are there for different operations. So most of the commercial applications have now their own child chain, but you could, or we are always using the child chain called Ignis for the magic, for creating tokens, for sending tokens, for storing information, etc. Of course, if you operate your own child chain, and if you operate your own nodes, securing your own child chain, and if you then make a game like Tarasca, and it's later on a child chain, they would not really have to care about paying their transaction fees, because they could pay the transaction fees with their own asset they define of, that they accept their own assets just to secure the platform. And then, for example, again, they just broadcast the hash every 10 minutes, every hour to the main chain, paying with the main cryptocurrency to prove to the world that their transactions, their tradings of the cards or whatever are safe and secure and cannot be manipulated afterwards. And the last learning is, again, newbies get wrecked, to use gaming language here, and then old school blockchain people on Twitter are laughing, pointing your finger at you, and you get your grades because because you lost your funds, or you revealed your private key, or you put your private key on a piece of paper that is sticked to your monitor, and then you publish, you make a photo and you send the photo on Facebook, and everyone can see your private key. Things like that can actually happen. So that was it. Sorry for just me talking. I have the feeling that after the break I performed a little bit better. But at the end of the day, the only thing I hope is that you now have a little interest in the topic of blockchain, and you might play around for an hour or two on the testnet and try to read books, my papers, other papers, and prepare for the future that is coming for sure. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the lecture today.
Yeah, this was all new information for me, so definitely